So today's lesson, we're going to talk about Medicare, and we're going to really specifically prepare you for this annual enrollment period that's coming up. I mean, that's why it's coming up today. It's October 15th to December 7th. We're in a little advance of that. Of course, I don't know when you're watching the video. And so that's the topic we're driving at. But I got to tell you that people come in, we have 6,000 clients here at Cardinal that have Medicare Supplement or Medicare Advantage insurance with us. And they're constantly renewing, and we're servicing them, and we're bringing in lots of new clients every week and every month. And that goes on year round. And where we're sitting down talking to people, and most people that are on Medicare, they do not understand, everything about their insurance coverage, or most everything. They understand some things about it. But what I want to do before we get into annual enrollment period and the elections that you can make or you need to make, what we're going to work on having you do as an exercise is figure out exactly where you are in terms of your Medicare. And one little hint that I'm going to give you is you're either on the left side of the board and you're on original Medicare, Part A and Part B, or you're on the right side of the board and you're on original Medicare, Part A and Part B, but you have taken your Part A and Part B Medicare and you've elected for the government to outsource your Medicare to one of these Medicare Advantage plans, and you now receive your Medicare benefits from a private insurance company like Humana or United Healthcare, Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross. There's a whole bunch of them, and they deliver the Medicare to you. And this is by your election, so you chose this. So you're still covered under Part A and Part B. You'll notice on both sides of this line, it's the same. You've got a red, white, and blue card. You're under Part A. You've got Part B. You pay $170 a month or thereabouts for your Part B, unless you're a high income person. And then you pay this thing called IRMA, which is an excess charge or an excise tax on well-to-do Medicare people. But most people pay $170 a month. That's true on either side of the board. And so when I was trying to draw this out in preparation for this video, it's kind of like, in the old CB days, people would say, well, what's your 20? And say, well, I'm outside of Little Rock, Arkansas, and I'm outside of Chicago. Okay. And for those of you, we want to know, or we want you to know before we start getting into what you can do during the annual enrollment period, we want you to know what's your 20, what's your Medicare status. And just when we were preparing for this, we had our producer actually get out of his wallet and get out his card and just read it to us. And we were very easily able to then tell him where he starts. And so we've got to go back to the place you started when you first went on Medicare or the last time you made a change to figure out whether you're either here or here. And this black line down the middle is kind of like the Mississippi River in the United States. You're either west of it and you're over here, or you're east of it, but you can't be both. And the reason I'm going into so much trouble with this is we have clients that come into us, even our own clients, and they apply attributes of the right side of the board when they're not even here. They're over here on the left side of the board. They're on original Medicare and they got a supplement. And they're applying attributes of this to the plans that they have. And the same way in reverse, we have clients who are over here and they're on a Medicare Advantage plan, but yet they're telling us things about their Medicare Advantage plan or concerned about things that apply over here. So that's the first exercise. And I really would like Tom to show you in the Medicare guide, where it says all this.
Yeah, so we have the show notes in the description below the video, and it's a link to this document. But I'm going to share my screen here. This is a picture of the board. We have a lot of people that will actually print this out and walk through it as the video is going, which can be helpful. But below that is we have some pages that we have pulled out of the Medicare guide or the Medicare supplement guide. So this is a guide that's produced every year, and it's way too long. It goes into way too many details, but we want to make a couple of key points that are on some certain pages in here. And specifically, we're going to spend some time on page 7 of this guide that really walks through the two options. I mean, it's an either or option. You're either on original Medicare and a supplement, or you're on a Medicare Advantage plan. You cannot be on both. And so if we look here, I just want to kind of remake the point here that we have both Part A and Part B on both sides of this line. We have a lot of clients come in that have just they've decided to go with a Medicare Advantage plan, and they're thinking that they don't have to pay Part B anymore because they're not getting coverage directly from Part B. In a roundabout way, they're getting coverage because Medicare pays a lot of money to these Medicare Advantage plans to take you off their books, but you still have to pay that $170 a month premium in either option. I mean, that's just the cost to be in Medicare at all. One of the differences or some main differences between the two, and can help sort of determine where you're at, because I think John makes a really good point, or Hans makes a really good point, that before we start talking about the AEP or the annual enrollment period, and there's decisions that you can make during that time period, you need to know where you're starting, whether you're on this left side or the right side, because your decisions and your choices are different in either one. Original Medicare, that's where you're getting coverage from the red, white, and blue card, and you get a supplement that has an extra cost there, and that you're paying for. And then the Advantage plan is one where you've privatized it. Hans is right. We have lots of clients that come in and they have no idea where they are. They don't know if they have a supplement. They don't know if they have an Advantage plan. They kind of know a little bit about this. They know that they start seeing a lot of Medicare ads in the fall, and so they think there's something to do there, but they have no idea what it is they have. And because of that, they don't know what decisions they have to make or what options they have. And so to start off with, we really need to determine which one of these you're on, which side you're on. And so, Hans, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how to determine which side you're on versus the other.
Well, why don't you tell us about this client that we just were dealing with? It's 67 years old, and he knows a fair amount about the situation. Tell him about him.
Sure. And so this client comes in, we're doing some work with him, we're doing a financial plan, and he, we kind of asked him in sort of preparation of this video, because we kind of a proof of concept a little bit of like, do you know which side you're on? Do you know which one you have? And he was kind of like, well, I know I have Medicare, and I have this, I have a Part D, but maybe I'm on the Advantage plan. I know it's with United Healthcare. I mean, ultimately, he really didn't know which one he was on. And so we kind of, there's some questions we can ask to kind of help determine that. And so we're just listening to him, letting him kind of go along. So he was sort of bouncing back and forth, didn't really know what he has. He said, I know I'm paying 114 a month for it, but I think it's an Advantage plan. Anyways, we kind of let him go a little ways, and then we started asking him some specific questions. One of them being, so you have two separate plans, a Part D plan and another insurance. To me, that's a pretty clear indication that you're on the left side of the board. You have a Medicare supplement and a standalone drug plan, because under the Advantage plan side, most times that includes the drug coverage on that plan. It's not a separate policy. And so that was a key. The other, and just kind of piece that he told us, was that he's paying about 100 and I don't know 15 a month or something for the secondary plan. That's another key for us, is that sounds probably like it's a supplement price. Most Advantage plans are much less expensive than that. There's a lot of plans that cost $0 a month. So those are some key hints. Ultimately, we just had him get out his card and said, get out your card and read to us what it says. And so if you are unclear what you're at, this is a great way to have a starting point, is to get out your card. Let's look at it and see what it says on there. I mean, the card, initially he pulled out his Medicare card. So everyone's going to have a red, white, and blue card. So that's not the card we're talking about. We're talking about the secondary insurance. And so he finally gets it out. It says United Healthcare up at the top. Well, United Healthcare could either be a supplement or it could be an Advantage plan. So that's not real helpful. He keeps reading down there, and eventually he gets to a line that says Plan G. That's automatically we know definitively that's a Medicare supplement. Anything that has a plan and then a letter name associated with it, that's going to be a Medicare supplement. When you have a Advantage plan, it might say, something choice or HMO or PPO. It's going to have something on there that kind of lets us know that it's that. But if you have some question where you're at, pull out a card, because that is a great way to really determine where you're starting off, and then we can talk about what your options are here in a second.
Okay. And, the client I want to talk about is I just had a guy write to me in email last weekend, and he was watching my Turning 65 video that's just had 300,000 views on YouTube. Watched the whole thing, and he wrote, "Dear Hans, I've watched your video. I haven't really studied much about my Medicare because I'm in good health. I'm 70 years old. But what I've figured out is I'm on a Medicare Advantage plan, and that was the only thing that was shown to me when I turned 65. I've been on it 5 years. I'm paying a zero premium." And he says, "I learned all this from your video, and I'm on," so what he was telling me is he's now figured out that he's over here, and he wants to be over here. And the reason he wants to be over here is because he doesn't want a network. Is he's had a neighbor get involved in he's over here on the Advantage plan, and he ran into some network problems, which that's probably the biggest reason people leave Medicare Advantage plans, go back to original Medicare, and then once they do that, they got big deductibles and co-payments, so they buy a supplement. And he's fortunate he can buy a supplement because he's in good health. But he said, "I want you to do this for me because, when I was not informed until I watched this video that there's a whole nother side to this thing. And not only have I learned about this other option, I'm kind of a little bit angry that I wasn't shown this at the very beginning. And now I want it. Can you do this for me?" And of course, we're going to be able to help him. So what I'm all leading up to with this is I'd like you to challenge some of your assumptions as you've built your knowledge about Medicare. And then that this period of annual enrollment is coming up, and you feel like you have to do something, you get to do something. And many people are not as sure what applies to what. And so they've got some angst about that. And many of you don't have to do anything. You can just sleep through the whole thing. So that's what all this rigmarole of walking you around and showing you all this is. You need to find your 20. I mean, you need to go back to when the last time you made a change with your Medicare and figure out whether you're here or whether you're here. And then we're going to be ready to deal with you in the annual enrollment period. Okay. So now we're going to move down and talk about AEP, OEP, IEP, and SEP. I mean, the government doesn't make this stuff simple. That's why they got a 90-page book that Tom was just referring to. I mean, it's just, and the one that people are aware of is this AEP, Annual Enrollment Period, October 15th into December 7th. So the government decided it'd be a great idea to take all 50-some million seniors that are on Medicare, and about half of them have a Medicare Advantage plan. So 27 million seniors, and the other half that don't have a Medicare Advantage plan probably have a Part D plan, standalone. And we're just going to be a great idea. Let's take all these people and jam them into 7 weeks. So if they want to make changes, we're going to have to do it during this tight kind of period. But anyhow, that's the rule that we work with. So we tend to get real busy in the fall of the year. That's why we're putting out this video, so that we can get at least a number of our customers and some of you in a good position that if you need us, we're here. But if you're fine with everything the way it is, and you've read your mail, and when you're going to get letters in the mail telling you if something's changing from your company, it's going to come from whoever you have your Part D plan with, or your Medicare Advantage plan. You need to read those And so if you want to do something, we're here for you. We work in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, and Tom and I are both CFPs. We have 10 other people that work in here that are insurance licensed, and we operate all over the country, so we can give you the consulting and tell you whether you need to do anything. But the first thing we're going to do with you is we're going to want to know, where are you situated right now? We can get you there pretty quick. You don't have to know that before you call us. So now we're going to talk about annual enrollment period. Is what can you do? What do you have to do? And so I'm going to go through that. Is that if you're over here and you're on a Medicare Advantage plan and you say, I've had it with the Medicare Advantage, I want to go back to original Medicare, and then I want to buy a supplement, you can do that during this period of time. Okay? And we can do that for you. Now, before you make that change, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to apply for a Medicare supplement policy. And you could do that right now when you're watching this. You don't have to be during this period of time. You can change your Medicare supplement or buy a new one any time of year. What I want to caution you is these Medicare supplement insurance companies are going to have some health questions for you. So, you're going to want to make sure that you can get a supplement secured before you start leaving the Medicare Advantage plan, because that's going to be key. You don't want to be on original Medicare without supplemental insurance. So we could get started with that right away. And I don't want to scare you with the health questions. They're pretty, they're not that difficult of questions. It's a pretty easy, smooth underwriting process. We also have 40 insurance companies that we represent, depending on your zip code. Some places it's a little narrower, but those companies all have different health questions that they ask. So many times we can get you with somebody if you really want to make this change, but that's a thing that we need to deal with before we start messing with your Medicare. Okay? So if you're here and you want to go to that side of the board, you can do it during this time. If you're over here, let's say you're on original Medicare and you're on a supplement and you got a standalone Part D drug plan, and maybe you're unhappy with the premium that you're paying for the Medicare supplement. Maybe that's difficult for you. And your neighbor has this Medicare Advantage plan and they're paying a zero premium. They've been real happy with it, and you want to consider making that change. Well, this is the time of year to do it. And there are no health questions. So these Medicare Advantage plans are going to take great care of you, and they're not going to ask you any health questions. You're going to be able to make that change. But I would encourage you is just don't go enroll in the plan your neighbor's in. You can look at all the plans available in your zip code. And again, we can help you do that. And then, proceed with caution, because there's things that come with this that your neighbor informed you may not know all about. So this is a decision process, but again, you can do it during that period of time. And that's kind of it. I mean, it's not real complicated what we're going to do during this period of time. It's just what's complicated is understanding where you are, and you understanding where you are and why you might want to stay there or why you might not, why you might want to make a change. Because that's where all the complication is actually once people get all that stuff straight, it's pretty simple then to lay down your options. Now, people that are over on the left side of the board and you're basically happy with your Medicare supplement and your original Medicare and everything's going along great, people are generally satisfied with this, perhaps with everything but the premium they pay for the Medicare supplement. But perhaps there's nothing we can do about that. But your drug plan has become, it's not good for you, or at least you think it's not good for you, and you think you could do better, and you want to shop drug plans, and you want to look at what else is available. Again, just on that piece, you can move from like United Healthcare to SilverScript, or from SilverScript to WellCare or something. You can make changes during this time of year. So again, we can help you with that. So I want to bring Tom back on, and I want Tom to just go over anything he has to add to this.
Yeah, on the left side of the board, we have a lot of people who are happy with original Medicare. They have their supplement. They know they can change the drug plan in the fall. But what they mix up is they think they can only change their supplement in the fall as well, which is not true. A Medicare supplement, you can switch anytime during the year. It does not need to be a certain time period. It does not need to be this annual enrollment period. You do still have to go through the underwriting. You have to answer the health questions. But if you're on the left side and you have a supplement and you have your price increase, which happens every year, generally around your birthday, it'd be wise to review that and see if there's something that's less expensive. I can't tell. There's a lot of people that come in that think that once I sign up for a supplement, that's the one I'm going to have my whole time on Medicare. And that's not the best way to do it. Is you want to shop these every 2 to 3 years to see if you can get a lower price. I mean, there's no reason to pay more for the same coverage. A G plan is a G plan, no matter who you have it from. And there's no reason to pay more for it if you don't have to. And so I want to make that point. And then on the right side of the board, you might be happy with the Advantage plan, but sometimes there can be changes from year to year. And so to Hans's point, they inform you of those changes. They generally bury it in a long letter with a bunch of documents in there. You kind of have to read through it to figure out what's changing. But read that stuff, at least glance it over, because there's a lot of people that have coverage they're happy with, and then there's some material change for the next year, and they don't know about it. And they miss this window of time to do it, and they could be locked into it for a whole nother year. And so read your mail upcoming. If you're on a supplement, know that you can switch those during different times, and I think you'll be pretty set for the annual enrollment period.
Okay. And so what I'm hearing from you, Tom, is if you're on one of these Medicare supplements and original Medicare, if that's where you are, and then many people are under the misunderstanding that I can't switch this or change this anytime but October 15th to December 7th, and that's just false. So if you're watching this video any time of year and you want to consider a change in your Medicare supplement, we have a lot of people, we save them $50 a month just by going through there. Their premium has just raised up to $150, $170, $190, and all of a sudden we run the same, somebody else sells the same thing for $130 or $140. We make the change. It's very easy to do. We can do that 365 days a year. So that's one other thing, is it may be the worst time to call us and look at your Medicare supplement, because we're going to be busy with all this other stuff. Well, go ahead and do it. We'll take the time to look at it. But if you're watching this any time of year, we can make this change. Like I said, any time of year, it makes no difference. So anyhow, we've gone on long enough. I'm Hans Scheil.
And I'm Tom Griffith.
And we thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.